Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of NFL Draft Triple Take, brought to you by UPMC. I'm Mike Prisuta, joined as always by the rest of our first line of draft coverage, Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson. You might recognize those two guys as the authors of The Drive every day on Steelers Nation Radio. You can also take advantage of the fine work that Dale and Matt do on the Steelers Audio Network and at Steelers.com. You can find me there as well. But we are here today for, I believe, the fourth time to mock the first round.
Absolutely. As we get closer and closer to the draft, things change, things adjust, and, you hear stuff.
It's also lying season. I always never know what quite to believe. But you read the tea leaves, things start to get a little bit clearer.
Well, the good news for us is this is not going to be the final edition.
Right.
But before we get to the fourth edition, I need to remind everyone that the opinions that are about to be expressed are those of the illustrious panel here and not the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're coming up with what we come up with, however we come up with it, but the Steelers may differ. They may have some other ideas in mind.
And probably do.
The way we do this, if you're new to the program, we basically divide the first round, into thirds and then kind of kick that around, get each guy's thoughts, 10 or so picks at a time. So, Dale, let's start with you. Anything shock or delight you about what you came up with this time to start things off?
Well, I've got Shedeur Sanders getting past both the Browns and the Giants at the top of the round there, and then falling down to the Saints at 9. Could be a surprise, could be what happens. I also have Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall, going to the Raiders there. And Pete Carroll loves those speed balls off the edge. And Mike Green is a speed ball off the edge, a lot of different pass rush moves, really good football player, a lot of production in college, and it just kind of made some sense to me. I just threw that out there.
It stood out to me that you had 3 edge guys going in the top 8, and it's a really deep edge class. But
this year's edge is last year's QB. Is that what you're saying?
In a way, yeah.
Really
last
good,
year's tackles. I mean,
there
were so many tackles and quarterbacks at the top of the draft, and edge is another premium position that could fly off the board, quicker than people think.
Let's flip it over and see what Matt Williamson's got for us. Picks 1 through 10 in. Mike Green showing up again in the top 10.
Yeah.
Jalen Walker, edge, Georgia.
The thing that I kind of went out on a limb on was Genty at 5. That's the earliest I've seen him. A lot of people have him go to the Raiders. A lot of people have him go to the Bears. I just think him and Hunter are the premier prospects, and I don't know that ATN's going to be in Jacksonville much longer. Should Tank Bigsby, prohibit you from taking a superstar player? So that stood out to me. And I'm also looking at the Jets going, man, other than Garrett Wilson, who's catching passes there right now? So any kind of receiver, I thought, to the Jets made sense.
As for my picks 1 through 10, just like Matt and Dale, I have Cam Ward going first to the Titans. Are we pretty sure?
I think that's
set
chiseled that in stone, yeah.
So if that's the case, I mentioned a moment ago, these are our opinions, not those of the Steelers. They are also not the opinions of the Cleveland Browns. But if I'm the Cleveland Browns, and if Cam Ward goes 1, I'm not walking the card up with Abdul Carter. I am running it up. And I'm lining up Abdul Carter on one side of my defense and Myles Garrett on the other. And I'm thinking, I've already had a pretty good draft.
I get it, and I did the same thing. But then again, Abdul Carter has done nothing in terms of workouts this offseason. Finished last season with a shoulder issue, now has a foot issue, and you just wonder about some of that stuff. But, the tape is the tape, and he's a good football player.
That's a rare advantage to have him and Garrett.
Yeah.
That's just pretty shocking
and
stuff.
Matt, you mentioned a lot of people have Genty going to the Raiders. I'm one of them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Pete Carroll likes beast mode as much as the next guy, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a great fit. I just thought maybe he could even go earlier.
Maybe. All right, let's stick with Matt as we go picks 11 through 20.
So Dallas is another team, as well as Miami, that just could go so many different directions. I actually turned this in before Armstead retired, their left tackle for Miami, and now it even makes even more sense with Banks going there. 2 receivers in this neighborhood. Golden would really complement Lamb well. McMillan could sort of be their DK Metcalf replacement at 18. That was my thinking there.
Okay, let's switch it over and see what Dale Lolley came up with. And again, Dale, I think we're seeing, as we have the first 3 times we did this, we've all got pretty much the same names, but they're invariably in different spots. And I think
that's
that
going to be the way
reflects a lot of
Same
people are going to
neighborhood.
view these guys. One man's picked 13 overall might be another man's 20.
And that's really this draft in a nutshell. I mean, if you look at it, depending on what mock draft you look at, you could find 45 different names of guys going in the first round at some point during this whole draft process, because it doesn't have the high end prospects, but it does have some depth to it. So it's going to be beauty's going to be in the eye of the beholder here. And I got a couple of defensive tackles going in this 11 to 20 range here. Like Matt, I have Amari and Hampton going to the Denver Broncos as well. That makes a lot of sense. The Dolphins, again, I didn't know Armstead was going to retire, but they could also use Kenneth Grant.
They have a lot of needs, yeah.
The defense is really rough right now. They got
thin.
hit pretty hard this offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. And I think Jihad Campbell to Tampa.
I think that's
That's
far
starting
as
to
he
line
can
up.
fall.
That's starting to line up now. They need somebody long term for Levante David.
Campbell to Tampa, Hampton to Denver. It's late in the draft, but that's a little chalky. I'm not sure how either team passes on those guys.
I'll give you one more. If we switch it over to what I've got 11 to 20, I've also got Hampton going to Denver. That feels like a natural based on the development of that team and the kind of player he
the
is
next
for
step
that coach.
that they need. Yeah.
Young quarterback.
You get that quarterback back. They've kind of done it by committee, and the running game was kind of secondary there. This kid can change that theoretically.
Yeah, they've drafted line help quite a bit, and now it's time to add that last piece, and that could make them a contender in the AFC.
I've also got Warren going to Indianapolis. I don't know if he lasts that long, but I bet he doesn't get past 14 if he's there.
I would think that's his floor.
Yeah, and he's, people look at, well, he's a tight end. No, he's a pass catcher. He's an offensive weapon. You can't just look at the TE next to his name and say, oh, that's, no. You'll find ways to use that guy.
Do you buy the Wildcat stuff with him, or is that just a college thing that is going to kind of go away?
They could mix it in. I mean, he could be a tush-push guy. I bet he throws a couple passes in his career, maybe 2 or 3 a year, something like that. But he's going to be someone who's want to get the ball in his hands.
All right, now the pick everyone's been waiting for, 21st overall. We'll go back to Dale, and there you go, defensive tackle Derek Harmon, Oregon via Michigan State.
You had to get that in there, didn't you? Yeah, I mean, I had the other two defensive tackles, actually 3 defensive tackles going earlier than this. I don't know that Harmon wouldn't be maybe higher on the Steelers board in terms of what you're looking for. The 35-inch arms, the height, everything matches up well for him as a 3-4 defensive tackle. I just think that makes a lot of sense, and just so happened to be available in this particular mock draft.
A lot of corners on your end of the first round here.
You can always use those guys.
Go into playoff teams, and I also like Loveland going to the Rams. I mean, you had Devontae Adams along with Puka and Loveland. That's serious firepower.
I gave some serious thought to Jackson Dart going at 26.
Yeah, I think I ended up doing that too.
I think that would make a lot of sense. They don't have a long-term quarterback in place behind Matthew Stafford, and could certainly use a year or two behind Stafford and just make that transition.
Be a good landing spot, yeah.
They'll talk about Ravel a little bit, the East Carolina corner, who is interesting for a couple of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of traits, but, an ACL injury that, he's recovering from. Maybe he misses the first few games of the season, but, man, the traits are off the charts. He's 6'2 plus. He's, 200 pounds. He runs well, does everything well. He just coming off an ACL. There's a lot of guys at that cornerback position this year that are that. They've just got something that's been nagging them.
And considering the level of production, playing at East Carolina, you would have loved to see him at the Senior Bowl, and you don't get that,
So flip it over to Matt Williamson, picks 21 through 32. And we've also got a defensive tackle at 21st overall, although not Dale's defensive tackle.
Yeah, I'm a big Walter Nolan fan. I think defensive line is a major need for the Steelers at the moment. A young guy like that to kind of learn from Cam Hayward seems perfect timing. His teammate, I did put Dart to the Rams. That would be another good landing spot for him. And I don't know how the Texans could pass on Josh Simmons. He has some injury stuff too, but they've totally revamped their offensive line and including trading Laramie Tunsil to Washington.
Okay, so it's interesting. You have Dart at 26.
Yeah.
So you consider him a first-round quarterback, at least 26 overall worthy.
I think he will go in the first round. I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest with you.
Does that explain why you didn't select him 21st overall?
Yes.
Okay. Curious, because if we flip it over to Mike Prisuta's 21.
Nope, there he is.
There he is again. I'm telling you, this guy's growing on me. A lot of the things that I'm hearing about him are impressing me as much as when I go back and watch the tape. Now, he did have some stinker stuff on tape, including the end of the Florida game, which is rather inexplicable. But don't they all have moments where it got away?
Maybe I'm just jaded by that because I watched that one live and I'm just like,
so did I. And I think
what is he doing?
I kind of wrote him off mentally right at that point. But
Yeah.
then when you start doing the deep dive, I like his game. I like his, from what I can tell of his personality. And we should add these exercises. We don't have medical. We're not sitting down with these guys and talking to them. We're not interviewing the strength coach and finding out all that stuff.
The three of us didn't put Jackson Dart on the whiteboard and
Yeah.
grill him about. Yeah, right.
I like his style, and I like his numbers, and I like where he's coming from. The SEC and the Big Ten, I can't remember if I mentioned this on a previous show or not, but Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network has promoted the theory that the SEC and the Big Ten, because of the NIL now and the way the college game is changing, they're pro leagues that are as close to the NFL as you're going to get. Now, I know.
Well, technically, they're all pro leagues now
Yeah.
because everybody's getting paid.
But I mean, they're up
Yeah.
there. I know guys come from other leagues and will, but there's a lot of consistent, you're going against guys who you're going to play against on Sundays, and you're playing with guys who you're going to play with on Sundays. And I think there's way more to like than not.
I think that's a great point. And even a conference like the ACC, all of a sudden you can be like, man, his level of competition wasn't that great. You know, if you didn't go into the playoffs or whatever. I mean, what kind of pro-style defenses did you face?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I understand it, Mike, and I would understand it if the Steelers did that, went that direction. But, you know, they don't have a second-round pick, and are you going to just push away that defensive tackle need, assuming that you make some kind of signing at quarterback?
In theory, I could drop down and maybe get back in the second round.
In theory,
And
no
maybe
trades make
Jackson
things
Dart's
harder,
still
right.
there. If Williamson thinks he's 26, maybe I get him at 26 or 27.
You mentioned Mike Green earlier. You have him 28. Dale had him going on the first screen. That's in the top 10.
I think you did as well.
And I think all of the above could happen. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
same with
it's-
Walker. All these edge, they could go anywhere.
It's so razor thin to me to separate
exactly.
these edge guys. Even
Exactly.
some of the D tackles.
Right.
Even some of the offensive tackles. What I've heard about this draft is maybe not great at the top, but very good throughout. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely buying the latter part of
And
that.
there's a lot of good football players we didn't have in our top 32.
Right.
I mean, day 2 is going to be strong.
Well, stay tuned because we might do this again, and
Yeah.
they may find themselves
you go.
working their way in. That's going to do it for this version. I want to remind everyone the opinions expressed here are ours, not the Steelers. Also want to remind everyone that you can find all this stuff on the Steelers' social media platforms. We're going to be continuing to generate content such as this leading up to right up till draft day, right? I mean,
Including draft day.
including draft day. We've got a lot of stuff still on the schedule, so make sure you keep finding us if you like what you're seeing. Until then, thanks for finding us this time, however and wherever you found us. For Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley, I'm Mike Prisuta. This has been another edition of the NFL Draft Triple Take brought to you by UPMC.